September 2023, villagers on Romania's border with Ukraine heard explosions and found missile debris in their fields. After decades of military neglect and a navy stalled since 1998, Romania's defense budget suddenly jumped by €3 billion in 1 year, the biggest surge in 30 years. Why is a country once dismissed as vulnerable now racing to rearm faster than anyone expected, and what does this transformation really mean for the Black Sea borderlands? Romania's eastern border stretches for 650 kilometers, tracing the edge of a war that has redrawn European security. In the village of Plauru, just steps from the Danube, locals woke to the sound of explosions on September 3, 2023. Shrapnel and missile fragments were scattered across farmland, clear evidence that the fighting in Ukraine was no longer distant. Only 45 kilometers away, Snake Island rises from the Black Sea, a rocky outcrop that became a flashpoint early in the conflict, its fate watched anxiously from the Romanian shore. For decades, the military presence in these borderlands had faded into routine. The Romanian Navy, once a point of national pride, last received a new ship in 1998. Patrols along the coast became less frequent as resources dwindled and aging vessels struggled to remain seaworthy. In the countryside, many saw the armed forces as a relic, understaffed, underfunded, and ill-equipped for modern threats. That complacency vanished with the first drone debris landing in a Plauru cornfield. Suddenly, the border was not just a line on a map, but a front line exposed to the unpredictable reach of war. Villagers found themselves scanning the sky for unfamiliar shapes, their routines interrupted by air raid alerts and the distant rumble of artillery from across the river. The reality of a frontier that runs 650 kilometers and the vulnerability it brings became impossible to ignore. As the Black Sea's strategic value soared, so did anxiety about Romania's ability to defend its coast and waterways. The silence of the Navy's docks and the memory of decades without modernization weighed heavily. For those living in the shadow of conflict, the sense of exposure was no longer theoretical. It was immediate, and it was personal. Romania's defense budget, long a footnote in national accounts, has become a headline figure across Europe. In 2023, the government allocated approximately €5.6 billion to defense, a number already considered ambitious by post-Cold War standards. But by 2024, that figure soared to €8.7 billion, the largest single-year increase in 3 decades. The scale of this jump is difficult to overstate. 55% surge in nominal terms and a compound annual growth rate of 11.47% since 2020. For a military accustomed to patchwork repairs and deferred upgrades, this kind of fiscal commitment is unprecedented. Inside the Ministry of Finance, officials worked late into the spring of 2024, amending budget lines and authorizing emergency disbursements. Parliamentary debates, once dominated by calls for restraint, shifted toward urgency. The Supreme Council of National Defense approved new procurement ceilings, and the Ministry of National Defense published multi-year spending plans that dwarfed anything since the 1990s. For the first time, Romania's defense spending exceeded 2% of GDP, with forward projections aiming even higher. This financial avalanche did not happen in isolation. Each euro released from the Treasury was tied to a concrete contract, whether for advanced fighter jets, artillery systems, or armored vehicles. The rapid growth in budget was not just about numbers on a page, it was about unlocking the resources needed to overhaul a force left behind by decades of neglect. Finance officers, once tasked with rationing ammunition purchases, now found themselves signing off on billion-euro deals with global defense giants. The money was real, and the intent unmistakable. Romania was no longer waiting for security to arrive from outside. The country was buying it at speed and at scale. Tracked and wheeled armor programs are reshaping Romania's ground forces at a pace few predicted. The Ministry of National Defense expects to sign a contract for nearly 300 new tracked infantry fighting vehicles, and the German-built Lynx IFV is widely considered the front-runner. Negotiations focus on local assembly and technology transfer, aiming to replace the last Soviet-era MLI-84s and equip up to 15 mechanized infantry battalions. Rheinmetall's proposed production line in Romania would bring hundreds of skilled jobs and direct supply chain integration, with union leaders describing the project as a matter of national pride. On the wheeled side, the Cobra TAU-2 program is moving quickly. Bucharest finalized an €857 million contract with Otokar in November 2024 for 1,059 vehicles, with the first 14 delivered by June 2025. Local assembly at the Medius facility pairs Turkish engineers with newly trained Romanian staff, accelerating skills transfer and domestic capacity. The Piranha 5 program, already underway at UMB Bucharest, has produced 47 vehicles, with 68 more in the pipeline and 150 additional units ordered, each batch increasing the share of Romanian-made components. Heavy armor is not neglected. In 2024, Romania secured a $2.53 billion purchase of 54 M1A2 Abrams tanks, marking a decisive step away from aging T-55s and TR-85s. Procurement officers and plant workers now drive a transformation that replaces decades of stagnation with rapid, visible progress on the factory floor and on the battlefield alike. Romania's artillery landscape changed dramatically with the July 2024 contract for 54 K9A1 Thunder, self-propelled howitzers, and 36 K10 ammunition vehicles, a €1 billion agreement with Hanwha Aerospace. These systems deliver 155mm rounds out to 40 kilometers, doubling the reach of legacy artillery and giving Romanian brigades the ability to shape the battlefield beyond the front line. The deal includes local assembly and technology transfer, with Romanian engineers at UMB and Romarm working alongside Hanwha partners to ramp up production. Early deliveries arrived on schedule, supported by offset packages that fund technical training and supply chain upgrades in Dâmbovița and Bucharest. Long-range rocket firepower has also grown. Since 2021, Romania has fielded 18 HIMARS launchers, with crews now able to strike targets up to 300 kilometers away. May 2024 saw the opening of Europe's first HIMARS Maintenance and Integration Center at Aerostar Bacău. Here, Romanian technicians handle repairs and upgrades for both domestic and allied systems, creating a regional sustainment hub that anchors NATO's logistics network on the eastern flank. This infrastructure makes Romania not just a buyer, but a critical node for alliance operations and support. Romania's AIR force is entering a new era, propelled by both ambition and necessity. In 2024, the government secured U.S. approval to negotiate the purchase of 32 F-35A fighters, a package expected to reach $7.2 billion. Parliamentary budgets now set aside funds for this leap, with officials pressing for delivery slots before the decade's end. The F-35, with its stealth and advanced sensors, represents a generational jump over Romania's current fleet. But the transformation is not only about buying jets, it is about building a pipeline of pilots and maintainers to fly and sustain them. At Fătăști, the European F-16 training center opened its doors in November 2023. The base, once a quiet outpost, now hums with activity as Romanian instructors guide both their own and Ukrainian pilots through intensive conversion courses. The center's mission stretches beyond national borders. Ukrainian trainees, some fresh from combat, rotate through simulators and live flights, gaining skills that will be needed on the front lines. Romanian and Ukrainian instructors work side by side, sharing experience born from very different skies. With 49 F-16 aircraft already in service, Romania is not just modernizing its own air force, it is anchoring a training hub, preparing pilots for a new era of alliance air defense. 4 Patriot missile defense systems have been delivered to Romania since 2020, forming the backbone of a layered air shield now considered essential on NATO's eastern frontier. In January 2025, Bucharest placed an order for additional Patriot units, even as the government made a controversial decision just months earlier. In October 2024, Romania donated one of its own Patriots to Ukraine. The move followed intense debate within the Supreme Council of National Defense, with President Iohannis and Defense Minister Tilvar pushing for the transfer despite warnings from senior generals about potential gaps in Romania's coverage. Norway and Sweden pledged funds to help replace the system, reflecting an alliance-wide commitment to shared security. At Deveselu, the Aegis Ashore missile defense site remains fully operational, anchoring NATO's regional shield. Meanwhile, a French-led multinational battle group is stationed on Romanian soil, underscoring that the cost of deterrence is shared in equipment and in allied boots on the ground. At the mouth of the Danube, the Damen Galați shipyard is producing anti-submarine frigates for the Dutch and Belgian navies, proof that Romania's maritime industry is now exporting advanced warships to NATO allies. In Constanta, port authorities manage a logistics hub that has become essential for military and commercial traffic across the Black Sea, handling record volumes of grain, fuel, and equipment since 2022. Energy planners point to the Neptune Deep offshore gas field as a future linchpin, driving demand for modern naval protection and secure shipping lanes. These industrial contracts, valued at over 15 billion euros since 2022, are matched by ambitious workforce targets. Defense planners aim to grow active personnel from 90,000 to 100,000 by 2030. Yet as Romania aspires to become a regional production hub, the challenge is clear. Sustaining technical expertise and a skilled workforce will decide whether this transformation endures beyond the current surge. Romania's defense budget now outpaces most of Europe, reshaping the Black Sea balance in real time. As tensions persist and new contracts roll out, every delivery signals a region on edge. Security here is no longer theoretical. It is a matter of urgent, daily calculation. What happens next matters to us all.